Hi guys, and welcome to today's video, which will be based on ASUS PRIME Z490-A motherboard, which has some sort of already familiar look, doesn't it? So yeah, today we're going to take an overview, and definitely through the couple of next videos you will be able to compare even the processors, because we have the 10th generation Intel Core motherboard right here, and we have few more coming in shortly, and definitely you'll be able to see some reviews. So let's go! As mentioned, we're going to talk about ASUS PRIME Z490-A motherboard, and let's start with the back panel I/O ports. Right from the top you have the HDMI and display port. You have 4 USB 3.2 generation 2 ports, which 3 are Type A and 1 is Type C. You have 2 USB 3.2 generation 1 port, which both are Type A. USB 2.0 ports 2 times, as I already mentioned, display port and HDMI. Then you have the Intel i225V Ethernet port, 5 audio jacks, and 1 optical SPDIF out port. Some of the key features and key specifications of the motherboard is 5-way optimization with IE overclocking, ASUS OptiMem2, which can push the limits of the memory up to 4600 MHz with the XMP profiles, a pre-mounted I/O shield, which kind of gives you easy mounting, not because it's easier to place the motherboard inside, but because you won't forget it. And flexible 22110 M.2 heatsink, we'll get to that also. So basically here is the motherboard. It really looks outstanding, and with the huge heatsinks up here, it does give a nice, incredible design, especially with the silverish and the white combination going out through the board. Really outstanding. Also, this is the M.2 heatsink that can be, let's say, a modular, so you can place it on both sides. The cool thing about it, you can place it on the bottom part, have a nice heatsink cooling the M.2, place a graphic card, and when you need to swap it, in case you need to swap it, you don't have to remove a graphic card. But still, it's cool. Now let's talk about the connectivity on the motherboard. You have 8-pin EPS connector alongside with 4-pin EPS as well at the top. You have 2 4-pin PWM connectors for your CPU fan and CPU optional fan. Right next to it you have 12 volt 4-pin RGB connector header, as well as the 5 volts 3-pin ARGB connector, and both of those ports headers you have right at the bottom underneath the lower PCI Express slot. 24-pin ATX power connector, USB 3.2 generation 1, 6 SATA ports with 6 gigabits per second, 2 additional 4-pin PWM connectors. The standard thing that all of us hate are the pins for the power on button, reset button, HDD and power LEDs. Then after that we go with the 2 USB 2.0 internal headers, which are very useful for RGB or fan hubs, so having 2 of those on motherboard is just perfect. Right after that you have another PWM 4-pin header for your fan, as I've already mentioned, the RGB headers, then we have the COM port, and finally the audio port as well. Talking about the whole design of the motherboard, I have to say it's really astonishing, especially with the whole white Prime Z490 series design. It's really outstanding. You have additional steel plates holding the PCI Express slots in case you have a heavier graphic card. Now let's check the box content. You have 3 SATA cables, you have 2 standoffs and 2 screws for your M.2 SSDs, and you have 1 standoff and a screw for the Wi-Fi card that goes right beneath the top M.2 slot. Now for the audio features, you have the Realtek S1220A 8-channel high definition audio codec which has the independent sense for front and rear headphone output, internal audio amplifier to enhance the highest quality sound for headphones and speakers, and high quality 120 decibel SNR stereo playback output and 113 decibels SNR recording input on the line in. When we're talking about the CPU that fits this motherboard, it's Intel socket LGA 1200 for the 10th generation Intel Core, Pentium Gold and Celeron processors. Honestly, I don't think anybody would place a Celeron on Z490, but nevertheless, it's stated here. The chipset is Z490, as I already mentioned, and when it comes to memory, you can place 4 DIMMs, 4 memory sticks, up to 128 gigs of RAMs, and you can boost the speeds, basically turn on the XMP profiles up to 4600 MHz, which is astonishing. As for the storage, I already mentioned it has 6 SATA ports with 6 gigabit per second speed. You have 2 PCI Express slots, which are generation 3 3x4, and when it comes to standard PCI slots, you have 3 PCI slots standard dimension, which 2 are x16. If you use SLI or Crossfire X, then they're both on x8. And you have 3 additional PCI Express 3.0 slots on x1 speed. The ASUS PRIME Z490-A has 14 x 45 amps power stages, where 12 power stages are CPU centric, so that kinda in the ASUS configuration has 6 twin phases, basically 6 parallel phases, which will be enough to handle 10 core physical processor. 540 amps of CPU centric power, more than enough to operate it and definitely to overclock it. Now, when we're talking about budget, this motherboard will most likely circulate around, since I still didn't find any prices online, will circulate around $250 euros, and taking into consideration that this board is basically prepared for the next generation, next year of Intel Core processors, and taking into consideration that, you know, when you're asking if the phases will overcook, let's put it that way, well, comparing the Prime Z390A with the Z490, well, Prime Z490A, the Z390 had lower and smaller heatsink, and basically the Prime Z490 has a bigger ones. So I don't think you need to worry about the temperatures around your processor. I think this is done very nicely, and taking into consideration how much can you push your RAMs, you have nice cooling, definitely an attractive looks, and loads of ports here. And not comparing comparing the price to other Z490 motherboards, and taking into consideration that this might be the lowest one, and of course with the future-proof capabilities and possibilities, I would definitely give PC Crazy approved badge and Best Buy badge for the ASUS Prime Z490A motherboard. So guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you still didn't, and I'll see you in another one. Bye bye.